Hey, it's Joseph here. Today we want to talk about Insta360 One R. I have unboxed this camera as well as featuring its function with Matterport before on this channel. I'll leave a link in the description for you guys to watch that if you're interested. However, I wanted to do a follow-up sort of full review, long-term review of this camera. Because I use this camera for many different purposes, I wanted to go over a couple of features and the functions that I use for specific type of tasks that I do. So the biggest difference between this camera and some of ones that are out there is the fact that this is modular. And it is modular in a way that has interchangeable lens. And in that aspect, it's very similar to DSLRs that we use or the mirrorless cameras that we use, because you can swap out the lenses for different purposes. And also, if the head unit breaks or malfunctions or whatever reason, you can swap that out, as well as swapping the battery out. And interchangeable battery is not really a thing for action camera type of small form factor camera, so that is something that is going for Insta360 One R. You can also get multiple batteries for obvious reasons and actually charge it without being connected to the head unit. However, this specific battery lasts pretty long, so I haven't had a necessity in having multiple batteries myself. And if for whatever reason the task kind of prolongs and I need to charge up additionally, I can actually charge it up with my normal battery bank via USB-C port. But I actually have removed the door for this port here because I don't necessarily need waterproofness or water resistantness. I need to easily access the USB-C port for charging or connecting to my computer to download the photos or the videos that I have taken, as well as taking out the micro SD card easily so that I can transfer the data quickly. But if I wish to, I can put the door right back in. So that is something that I have done. And this lens right here is the 4K lens. It is sort of the default lens that they have. And you can actually connect it either this way or actually reverse it so I can see the monitor. So opposite side of the lens. So this is sort of reversible, and that's why this is so versatile. You can do the selfie mode and then just connect the battery underneath it. And if you were to have the door, this whole kit is waterproof, so you can dunk it in the water if you wish to. And there are just two buttons up here for you to control the device, whether they're recording or power. And the screen itself is actually a touchpad so that you can turn on and then do functions here. It's quite tiny, so it is kind of difficult to control things with this one, but it is still sufficient. And you can also connect to your phone for better control, so that is something you can absolutely do. So that is overall design and functionality. And if you wish to change the lens, I actually have 360 lens here. So if you have that, then you can just connect to your head unit here and then connect the battery underneath it. And then now it has a lens on this side as well as on the other, so it captures 360 degree. And I have been using this configuration in conjunction with Matterport for me to do real estate photography or the virtual tour experience. So you can actually use this, put it on a tripod, and then scan a space so you have the virtual tour experience. I actually have done that with this camera and made a video about it, so I'll leave a link in the description for you to check that out if you wish to see that video. And for that, you actually need a couple of accessories because obviously you can't float this camera in the mid space. So this is a weird contraption that I have made for that purpose. This long portion here is called Neewer Carbon Fiber Model T333C, which is a monopod from Neewer, and you can just unscrew it and then this thing just kind of comes out like this. And it is quite light because this is carbon fiber. And actually I have connected to a feet in reverse. You can actually do that with this monopod. And the feet itself, it is from CAVER SV5, and it is basically a sort of the tripod feet, but it is meant for monopod, and you can just set it on the ground like that. There is a ball head here, however you can screw it down completely staying perpendicular to the ground, and that's what we want for that sort of scanning experience. So this is what I do, and if I need to fold the legs, I can just do that. If I need to have additional height, I can undo these and then have it quite high. I can actually have it taller than me, so which is more than sufficient for these type of photography. You want to have it at an eye level rather than something taller or shorter. And one thing for you to keep in mind is the fact that it has a lot more weight on this side because of this metal construction of the feet, and that's going to help you in terms of keeping the balance when it is standing vertical. It's not going to tip over since it is bottom heavy. And then what I prefer to use is something like this, which is meant for phone, but it is sort of in a C shape, and then I can just mount this at the tip like this. And then basically mount this camera here so that it stays put and then out of the camera sight. If you feel this is a bit too flimsy or not as secure, you can use the Smallrig cages, which I also have showcased on my channel before. I'll also leave a link in the description into the cage like this, and then snap. And this is going to be a lot more secure. So in my case, I can just screw this in at the bottom like this, and then it is going to be quite secure. You know, if it falls like this, it's not going to damage the camera since this is all metal cage. And aside from real estate photography or virtual tour experience, this cage is going to be quite useful for you because it's got the cold shoe mount and it's got a bunch of other threads around the cage, and it is going to protect your camera, as well as it has that typical GoPro mount if you wish to connect that way as well. And then here I have the third lens, which is the Leica 1-inch sensor. So this supposedly gives you the best quality of the picture, and you can actually put this together and then also put it in this cage. Although the lens is massive, it is going to fit without a problem, and then you can have it configured like this. And if you do a selfie mode with this lens, one of the downside is the lens itself is so big that it covers the screen a little bit, so it makes your control that much more difficult since you already have a very tiny screen. So that's something for you to keep in mind. But you shouldn't have that problem if you were to flip the head unit around, mount the lens different way like this, so that the screen is behind and the lens is on the front. And once you have it configured that way, and then it shouldn't have that problem of overtaking the screen with the lens. And in terms of the accessory, there are a couple more that I want to talk about. And this one is a true wireless earbud. This specific one is from MPOW or MPOW, and it is MX3. And this one I like because you can actually charge this via wireless as well. So you can just leave it on top of a charging pad and it is going to charge, as well as USB-C. So I have been using this as my normal sort of listening device or a short call using my phone. So if you're familiar with AirPods, it's pretty similar to those things, perhaps a lot cheaper than that. And the reason why I am putting this on right now is because it works with the camera. You can actually turn on the camera, and once it turns on, I can swipe down from the top and then go to the settings. And then here, there's a section that says AirPods. And then here, I can connect to a device, and then it is going to find the device and synchronize with this. So the function is called AirPods. So supposedly only AirPods are allowed, but some of other wireless earbuds are being able to connect to this camera. So there is a kind of loose document that you can find online which sort of earbuds or headsets kind of work with this specific camera. I have tested two different MPOW or MPOW earbuds, this MX3 as well as X3. I think that was the name of the other one that I had tried out, and it works quite well with this camera. So if I were to go ahead and hit record, so now you should be able to hear the sound coming from this earbud. And because the sound is being picked up from this earbud, I can actually set the camera and then walk away from it, and the voice volume and the tone will not change. However, the quality may suffer since this is all wireless and done through Bluetooth technology, so your mileage may vary depending on what sort of wireless earbud that you use with your device. And whilst it is being connected with the earbuds, it's gonna have a little headset icon, and once it is disconnected, it is going to show you that message. And since that is now disconnected, I also wanted to kind of let you hear what that sounds like if I were to just have it through the camera rather than the earbud that I was using. So this is a microphone testing of direct recording onto the camera instead of the earbud. So this is what I kind of sound like at sort of the arm's length, and there's a bit of a handling noise, I believe, and I can set it here, which is sort of my arm's length, and this is what it sounds like. Microphone testing, 1 2 3, 1 2 3. And if I were to hold it right here, this is what it sounds like. Microphone testing, 1 2 3, 1 2 3. And since we are talking about the audio devices, so here is a little tiny adapter that you can buy. It's about $10 and it is made from Insta360. I've tried all other type of adapters that's going from USB-C to 3.5 mil, and none of them actually work. So I guess it has to be this specific adapter, and you can use this for other external microphone that you might have for different cameras. And unfortunately, the Rode Video Micro that I'm using right now is not going to necessarily work with this camera. I have tested, but at the time it wouldn't necessarily work because it doesn't have internal amplifier. And at the time of testing, it wouldn't work with this camera since it doesn't have internal amplifier, is what I kind of researched and found out. So your mileages may vary, and maybe they fix it with the firmware updates and such, but I actually found the AirPods to be working better for sort of the voice recording setup, although I don't necessarily do a lot of voice recording through this camera. So that is something that you can test yourself if you wish to, and a viable solution if you were to have amplified microphones such as other higher end microphones. You can have something like this cage and then mount the microphone on top of the cage easily, and then that is going to work well. Oh, by the way, it has another cold shoe mount on the side on this cage. Since I have 3 different lenses, why don't I just kind of try them on, record, and kind of show you what sort of quality differences that you can expect. So the first one that I'm gonna try is the 4K lens. So this is where I'm gonna set it down, 4K 24 frames per second Pro mode, as well as I'm gonna leave everything in auto because whenever I tried manual, it just didn't really seem to improve the quality. I may be setting something wrong, but I'm gonna leave it in auto 4K and then hit record. This is what the picture looks like. If I were to hold up a product, it is a quite dark environment. If I'm capturing the video with Canon M50 Sigma 16mm at the aperture of 1.4, it is going to look like this, whereas if I were to use Insta360 One R, it is not going to capture as well because we just simply don't have enough of light to capture with. So that is sort of the quality difference that you may see. However, if you were to use a larger lens or larger sensor, then the quality of the image should improve. So that is to be seen. So let me go ahead and stop that right there. So let's go ahead and change it to the 1-inch sensor and set it on the exact same spot. And then I'm gonna make sure I have exactly same settings. I'm gonna set it as a Pro mode, 4K 24 frames per second. This 1-inch sensor could actually go up to 5.3K resolution. However, I wanted to compare sort of apples to apple comparison, so I'm gonna leave the resolution as 4K 24 frames per second and then leave rest of the settings as auto and then hit record button. So this is what the image looks like. Let me go ahead and swap it right back with the 4K and then 1-inch sensor, 4K and 1-inch sensor. This is exactly same setup, and this is how the image quality differ. And let me go ahead and stop there and actually bump it up to 5.3K. And again, the control is a little bit more difficult since the lens is in the way, but once I do that, I can set that up and then hit record button. So right now we are recording at 5.3K, and this is what the image looks like. We're gonna swap it with 4K lens quality and then back to 1-inch sensor quality at 5.3K and this is what the quality difference that you can see. I'm actually yet to see the quality difference, but let's see if there is a significant difference. And there better be a good amount of difference, because this specific lens is made by Leica and it costs about 300 USD, almost the cost of regular action camera. And let me go ahead and swap it out with the 360 lens. And one of the things to keep in mind is the fact that 360 lens only connects one way, because it's got lens on both sides. So one side is flat and the other has a little notch cut out for the battery unit. So that's what you have to look for. And once you do that, you can just mount it the same way that you do to other lenses. And then I can turn the camera on. And because this is 360 camera, it is going to capture everything, including that camera over there, the sides, as well as myself. Although I can actually touch the screen and then control what I can see within that 360 view that you have, it is not going to give you that fixed frame. So I'm gonna have to do the post-processing of the 360 view video and then actually format it into YouTube video so that you guys could actually see it. So that's what the video looks like, and this is the quality of the picture on that frame. Obviously you can take it as wide as you want, even a weird configuration, and I don't know, it makes it that much more fun to edit the photos or the videos that you take, because you can have all sorts of different type of effects. If you were to do a lot of travel or action stuff, then you can do all sorts of different things with this specific camera as well as this lens. And because we are trying everything out in a studio setup, I'm not necessarily showcasing its best of ability, because it does have very good stabilization, and regardless of the lens choice that you have, you can expect this camera to do a very good job of stabilizing your videos. So once you're shooting, I can actually shake, and this is how much of stabilization that you can have with this camera. So if you're hitting a bumpy road, you can actually expect this camera to do a very good job of stabilizing your footage. In my case, I have another use case scenario for this specific camera, and because this is so tiny and little, what I actually do is actually mount this on top of my desk so I can see the desk as the overhead view. So I can just mount it on here and then turn the camera, and this is what you're going to see. And because this is at 4K, I can punch into different sort of angles, and I can talk about different products that we use and the lenses that I have. We can talk about different things, and this is the quality of the view that you can have on the overhead camera. And let me go ahead and flip this camera so I can actually show you what that looks like. So flip it around, reassemble the camera, turn it on, and then hit record button. So there is my camera right here. I'm seeing myself, and then above that, actually here is the microphone, and then here is what I have set up in terms of overhead camera. So right now there is an arm that's coming from the monitor arm, and then a little friction arm, and that is connected to this little half cage here. And this specific product, I'll flash the name of it on the screen. What it is that I can just slide the camera into this cage here rather than trying to fiddle with opening or closing. It is not necessarily the most steady thing that you can find, but this is to the GoPro mount, so you can just kind of tilt it however you want. And because this camera is so light, I'm not gonna have a huge amount of wobble or weight problem, because that's what happens when you mount a heavy camera as an overhead configuration. And for a standing desk like this, there's gonna be a good amount of wobble whenever you kind of move the desk. So I figured it would be the best for me to use the lightest camera possible, which in this case is Insta360 One R, and that has been my overhead cam as well. And whilst editing, I have noticed that I forgot to mention a couple of things. This specific one is a lens cover for 4K wide angle lens. This is only a couple bucks off of Amazon, and you can just put it on the lens so that it covers the 4K wide angle lens. And this rubber cover actually shipped with the original 360 lens. So when this lens is mounted onto the rest of the camera, and then if you want to protect the lens, this is what you do. Actually, what I also use it for is the fact that I just kind of keep it like this. As you can see, the pins are protected by this side here and all the lens are covered. So this is how I carry the 360-degree lens. And also another thing that I wanted to mention is the fact that it connects to your phone. So let me go ahead. So I can just go ahead and turn on the camera. So on Android phone, I have Insta360 app, which is meant for One R. And typically you want to connect to your camera's Wi-Fi. So I am changing my Wi-Fi to my cameras. And then now I am connected to my camera. So from here, I can do actual shooting and then control what camera is seeing. So you're actually seeing what my camera is able to see on sort of the live stream. Obviously there's going to be a little bit of delay, but I am able to see what is going on. So let me go ahead and turn it around so it faces me. There you go. And then I am able to change the settings from auto to different exposure if I want to, or change the data size, the recording size, whether it's going to be linear, narrow, wide, ultra wide. So that becomes really convenient since the tiny little screen of the camera itself is quite hard to navigate things through. And especially if you got it mounted somewhere on top like I was talking about, going through all of these menus just kind of upside down and it just becomes a little bit cumbersome. So having a phone out here so I can see what is going on and then just change and monitor what is the camera seeing, it is a very good benefit. And for the 4K lens as well as a 360 lens, you are able to turn this camera into a webcam. So if you go to general settings and then select on the USB mode, you can just change from UDisc mode, which is the Windows sort of file system, iOS, Android, and you will also see webcam. And once you select the webcam, you can connect to your computer and then this thing turns into a webcam. So let me go ahead and do that. So I've got a cable that's connected to my computer and then I'm just connecting that. And I can pull up the camera app, Insta360 One R, and I can aim it to myself. So obviously this is like not the highest quality possible, but you can turn this into webcam. So one thing I don't really like is the fact that it tracks your face. So if you're away for a long time, isn't that kind of annoying? I'd rather not track my face like that, but it is really stuttery as well as, I don't know, it's too zoomed in. I'd rather see most of the thing. I have composition that I want to line it up to rather than it artificially zooming in and tracking. There's no way to turn this off currently, but perhaps a firmware will allow you to do that. But again, yeah, it's weird. I much prefer that composition than zooming in. So you can also connect the 360 lens and have the camera in the middle of the meeting table and then show all the faces around the table in the meeting like this. However, that is not necessarily a feature that I will be able to enjoy nor have tested. Okay, so I'll hand over back to the past. I know I rambled on a little bit, but I wanted to do a thorough review or sort of workflow showcase to you. And if it was any useful for you, please like this video and subscribe to my channel to continue watching these type of videos. Thank you so much for watching. As always, I'll see you next time. Bye.